Right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Node.js security team meeting. Um, Before I start, does anybody have any announcement? Nope. Okay. So as usual, we go uh to our review. Let me open the minutes here. Um, Vulnerability review, we don't have anything there, but we are aware of the OpenSSL uh upcoming security release. Um, and OpenSSF scorecard monitor review. I don't think we have anything to discuss today. It was updated 2 weeks ago. I will close and merge that pull request. Okay, I think I can just close that pull request because it conflicts. Right. The next item in our agenda is the initiative to 2024, the votes. So as I said, all the members have voted, and the official ranking is automation of the security release process. Then we have the threat model for Node.js maintainers, and including SBOM, audit build the process for dependencies, defining scopes of security, then permission model, symlink and sandbox investigation. 7, defense in-depth policy. And 8, improve CII best practices and reach silver badge. So considering uh, we are assuming that all initiatives from 2023 were concluded, we can get I would say 3 initiatives for this year, and then if we finish one of them like in a few months, we can take another one. What is your thoughts on that?
I think for me, it comes down to like, do we have people that are going to work on some of them too, right? Like, we need to do the sanity check that like we've got somebody lined up. So, I mean, automate security releases, we definitely do, right?
Yep.
The
Yeah.
Node.js maintainers, I think we've agreed that we should do that. So that's kind of an all the S bombs. I think Marco, you
Um,
volunteered for that
yeah,
one,
I
right?
mean, there is one, there is something to clarify, I mean, on the security release work, because right now I am on HackerOne and I have access, although I'm not in security release steward or external people. So probably I should be added to external people on HackerOne, or
No,
like my
you are
situation.
TSC.
So I can just go on, like
Yep.
every TSC can go on HackerOne, so it's
Yes.
Yeah.
fine. Okay, okay, then it's all right.
Yeah, my only feeling is that SBOM and the automation of secret release process is a ton of work, and I don't
Yeah,
think we are able to conclude both at the same time.
yeah.
So
I on SBOM, I wanted to actually like receive external help. Um, like I wanted to um have someone else who can take care of that instead of me. Um, Simply because I think there is like I think we like people came to our meetings, they were interested. Um, like we should try to publicize it and say, hey, like, can we find a volunteer to take care of SBOM? Because like I would be more interested in security release automation, and also for my current job, it is more like more relevant than SBOM.
yeah, that's my feeling as well. I think SBOMs or SBOM, yeah, who deserve someone 100% focused on that, and that contains some experience. Uh, to be honest, I don't have much knowledge on SBOM or how we can adapt it on Node.js. In my humble opinion, it just uh, it's useless for us, but it's another discussion. Uh, and I feel that we can do baby steps here and take just the item one and item two. Uh, the item one, we can do a sync, doing releases and automation as we are doing right now. And the item two, the threat model for Node.js maintainers, we can do during our calls as a deep dive. Pretty much what we did for the threat model in security.md.
Yeah. On the SBOM, for example, what I would do is give guidelines. So we have already talked about it. I took some initial steps. So what I would do is like create, I don't know if in the same issue or another issue to say, hey, this is the initiative, this is the standard that we chose, this is something that I've already tested. So someone who wants to take the work from there has all the knowledge and can just like get started without having to go through everything again.
Mm-hmm. We can just say, okay, we are interested in having this on Node.js, but we don't have enough people time or something like that. So if you
Yeah,
want
we're
to,
looking for we need it. We're looking for a volunteer to champion it, basically.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. I can volunteer to write the say the spec, so like what we want to achieve and how, like I can write it under the issue that I already opened, and then someone who volunteers to champion it can go from there.
yeah. Let me share my screen so we can. Uh, okay, here we go. So, do you all agree to have the selected items like these two and then dot dot? Okay, no,
Where's number 3?
yeah, like this. We focus on item two, one and two, and then if we have volunteers, we get the item three, and then if we finish like a number, the number two, for instance, which is more easy to solve, we can take the next item in the agenda, which can be the audit build for dependencies or
Well,
rest.
unless someone wants to
Yeah,
champion
to
volunteers
step
for it.
in. I
But like threat model is a, let's say a group effort, can be a
mhm.
group effort, so it doesn't require like someone like someone can champion it, but it's more of a discussion and like
Yeah.
but the other ones are would need champion and people who like do the work.
So for number 4, I am gonna like slowly move things forward on that front.
Okay. Right. So,
Yeah, let's move those like where we have a champion. Let's move it forward. Let's say that 1, 2, and 4 we have someone who's willing to champion it. The other ones, unless there is someone who wants to pick it, they stay in the parking lot.
but what do we say? We say that we are taking step one and two, and step four, or
Yeah.
just step one and two, and then we can do like parallel work on step four. And once we have something more concrete, like uh, uh, steps or really a workflow, how we can do that, we transform.
We have that. We have that. We
Yeah.
already have documented the process and like that number 4 has already started and we had deep dive. So I guess it's more mature definitely than other ones.
I'd be like, I mean, I don't see if we have a champion to move things forward, I don't see why we wouldn't put them in the initiatives.
Okay.
You know, and in terms of like, hey, these are ones we're actually doing some work on, and like the reality is like it doesn't matter what we rank them if nobody volunteers to do the work, right? So like even if we want S-bombs, for example, unless we have somebody who's like, yeah, I'm going to drive that, it's not going to move forward. So we should take the ones which we think make sense and there's volunteers and say like, okay, well, these are the active ones right now.
Okay. So, do you think you were able to beat the champion for that?
Yeah, so yeah, you can put me as the champion for that one.
Okay. Okay. I think it sounds good to have three initiatives. I believe that the audit build for dependencies and the secret release are more slow. Sorry, my cat. And but I think it's doable.
Yeah, like I think it would be I think those ones are good in that we've got people who want to move them forward, and then the threat model is one that we should probably focus on as a team. Like we could plan to use time in the meetings themselves or something like that, even to try and move them forward.
Yep.
Okay. So let's selected ini initiatives for 2024. Um, Please note we have skipped item 3 as bomb. Oh, as we don't
I think
have,
that there should be an S, not a.
sorry.
Best bomb.
It's not S
Oh,
bomb. It's
okay. Yeah, that's fine. I knew that I was doing something wrong.
you have a mental
I would do the following. I
yeah.
copy that, and that's way better, right? As we don't have a vol volunteer for that. If you are interested in moving forward with this initiative, join us. Join us. I think that's it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I just say like if somebody else comes along and says like any one of those other ones, they really want to move them forward. I don't see the like it would be nice to support that as well, if you know what I mean. Like I don't know if we need, if it makes sense to have like key initiatives for the year versus like ongoing initiatives or whatever. But like if, for example, if you looked at say go further up, right? Like, for example, Raphael, if you were still like, oh, we should still really have an initiative around the permission model, I want to keep championing that. Having that as a
Mhm.
list of like work that's going on, I don't think is a bad thing, right?
Yeah, I agree. I will just take a look on the ones that we have selected, and if I have time, I definitely would do that. I just like I will concentrate my efforts in the initiative that we have selected as top one.
Sure. Yeah, okay. That's like if you're going to focus on these ones, then it makes sense. But I just like if somebody else was like, "Hey, I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time on, I don't know, getting us to silver," right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say like, why we should probably add that as an initiative anyway. Um, but we'll see what happens with the rest of it.
Okay, I'm commenting that, and I will merge this pull request. Okay, can someone approve? This is the vote.
Yes. Is the pull request initiatives.
Yep,
Okay.
good. I think I need to not okay, yeah, that's fine. And then we do the following. We go to the README and update the current initiatives. Okay. So the first one is actually this one that I would do with Marco. So let's put my name there.
So like I think we will like keep the automation, and I will I don't know if is it possible, but I can volunteer to do security releases to like to help with releasing stuff, etc.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So the other one is the Node.js maintainers. Oh, that's wrong. Is it the maintainers, right? Maintainers, yeah, that's correct. And then we have Ortin as champion. We don't have an issue for that now, so I'll leave it open. And then we have the audit build process for dependencies. I think that's it. Okay.
Okay.
I think for the audit build, we do have an issue for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely an issue that's going.
Good. Right. Request created. Cool. Okay. So
Okay.
I think we can move forward. Do we have anything else to discuss?
No.
Okay. So next item in our agenda is we have two issues about, okay, yeah, the initiatives. It's just a follow-up. So let me
Yeah,
just,
we can remove the. I think we can remove it from the agenda.
yeah, let me just copy the result and paste there.
We can probably both just be closed, right?
Mm-hmm. Let me just mention the request I have created as well. Close and remove from the agenda. Cool. Um, okay, so we have we have the proposed approach for build steps in depths, which are not make node. So this is one thing we need to clarify. This will be a follow-up work from the audit build dependencies, right?
Which one? The proposed approach?
Yep.
Yeah, like I think that one, so we were looking at the dependencies. This is basically a proposal for like what our approach should be in the project. I don't think anybody's disagreed or whenever within the security working group. So maybe the next step is a PR into Node to say like, let's document somewhere that this is going to be our approach going forward. See what the larger collaborator base thinks, right? Because
Okay.
we need sort of buy-in that like, yeah, okay, if we see PRs that are moving us in this direction, that makes sense. Or people may say, no, that's like that doesn't make sense, right? So unless we think we need more discussion within the security group before we do that, that's I think the next step.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Uh, this item, so we can remove it from the agenda, right?
Yeah, yes, I think we can. I'll say I'll open the PR and yeah, we don't need it. Like basically we've socialized here. Nobody said, hey, that doesn't make sense. So we'll assume that yeah, we've got consensus and move on to the next step.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. The next item is fuzzing on Node.js. So I think this is we are having a parallel discussion on TSC about the same topic with OSTIF. So I think at this point we can just remove it from the agenda as we are waiting for their report to the TSC. I don't think we have anything else to discuss.
Maybe since it's us, can we discuss it privately? Like, I would like to be updated if there
Mhm.
is something I might have missed on this.
I
Okay.
think the short
We
answer is
can
we don't have the report yet. So
dis-
you'll get the
Yeah.
report when we do. And now that you joined the TSC and so there's nothing to be like I think maybe there were I'm just thinking like there's maybe we can give you an update in like 1 minute after the meeting ends, but there's not that much to update is really what I just wanted to say.
Okay. So yeah.
Okay. So I removed it from the agenda, and then the last item in your agenda is audit build process for dependencies. So I think
Yeah,
Michael.
I added a few notes like, nothing really new, but I do plan on building Indici with the containers I built, which are in line with that sort of approach that we outlined before. I'm also thinking I should try and see if we can if I can drum up some like, hey, does anybody else want to be involved? Because it's a, there's
Yeah.
lots of aspects to it and have like maybe more interlocks on that. But so I put that as a note. I should probably see if I can, if there's interest, and if so, set up something to get a bigger group of people working.
I'm wondering if we can do multi-team effort with the build team. I know that they are quite busy. They have a lot of tasks to do, but maybe this audit build dependencies they could help us as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like the build team builds stuff. Like the build team is mostly around the infrastructure, not actually what's being built. So like
Okay.
I think I'm on the
More
team. I've been
thinking
on the team a
side.
long time. I'm guessing the answer is kind of like, well, we keep the infrastructure going, but like this is much more specific to what node chooses as dependencies and how it builds them, and so not really related to the build.
Yeah, but possibly they will be very helpful when we create the threat model for Node.js maintainers because basically we will need to know exactly which permissions we have on Jenkins, for instance.
Definitely, yeah. So for that one, we definitely will need to pull in info from the build team.
Okay. Possibly I can try to invite any of them to our next meeting so we can get some thoughts on that. I think actually for the next meeting we can summarize all the questions and then
Yeah,
we ask them. Yeah.
yeah, I think we need like a kickoff, which is like, okay, what does it mean? What are we trying to cover? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's and just writing down like what we want to end up with. I have some thoughts, but like I'm sure you have some thoughts and Marco has some thoughts, so we can
Yeah.
see what is it like? Can we write down here's where we'd like to end up with, and then we can go from there to say like, okay, who do we need to pull in? And
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Uh, right. We don't have anything else on on the agenda. I'm just checking if we have something uh on the
we,
on our issues, but I don't think we have.
we could even spend the rest of the half hour brainstorming on that if you want,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
yeah,
That
like what do
I
we
have
think it should look like, right? In the end.
I have just one thing that I would like to mention before opening the issue, which is a proposal. So we could just think about that. Uh, Currently, I'm working on Node Source, and they use Node.js they build a patch on top of Node.js, and I'm sure that other vendors like AWS or cloud providers they do the same for Lambdas and things like that. So usually they have policies for security release. So whenever a security release appears, they need to update their Elm binaries as well to contain the patch. However, sometimes we release the secret release on Thursday because it got delayed or on Friday sometimes. Uh, and they need to review the patch and apply it to the binaries. So this is usually a lot of work and cause some stress to companies. I was not aware of that before joining the node source. And I have an idea and I would like to discuss if that's feasible, which is provide the patch earlier to vendors, pretty much what a few other languages or other libraries does. Would that
It's
make
like
sense?
just for history, this topic has been discussed before.
Okay.
And there's the complications end up being like how do you choose who gets to get access to those patches?
Okay.
Because you don't want to just say like, hey, anybody who shows up, you get access. So you got to have a selection criteria. Like you got to have some rules that say like, yeah, we'll give it to some people, we won't give it to some other people necessarily. So that's one where like there was never that's a complicating factor. The the other one is like then you need to manage this, right? Like you need to manage like, okay, well, how do you provide them? How do you provide them securely? And so in the past, it's sort of stalled out, not because anybody said, no, we don't want to do this. It stalled out because like it takes somebody who's really going to champion it and volunteer to do the extra work that it's going to take to support that.
I was thinking about including then to secure the external and the way we could define which goes to that list or not is basically if we trust then as a collaborator. For instance, in the case of node source, we have a me. If I was not TSC, for instance, or Santi or someone else, let's say that there are another library or AWS that wants to get the patch. If they have a collaborator which we trust and is collaborating to Node.js actively, we could do that, I guess.
Yeah, like if you,
Does that make
so
sense?
I could
Like,
see your proposal being any collaborator. And then there's like, once you said like an active collaborator, how are you going to distinguish between the, it's an interesting, like just as history, like nobody has ever said, no, we don't want to do it for sure, but it always petered out. So I'd suggest like, if you want to try and move it forward to make the proposal and see, you know, where it goes in terms of like, does it get bogged down in some of those discussions of like, how are we going to choose? And
mhm.
maybe you can invest the time to work us through those, right? Or but in
Yeah,
the past,
possibly.
people were like, I'd kind of like to have access to them, but nobody cared enough to make it happen.
Yeah, possibly we could. I can take a look on how other libraries or languages manage this.
I think some other ones would be some good examples. Like, for example, at Red Hat, we have the exact same issue in that like we have to ship our own versions and they have the patches. And sometimes it would be nice to say, oh yeah, here's what it looks like in advance of it actually going out.
Mm-hmm.
But like it hasn't been enough of a pain point for us to actually say, yeah, we'll take on the work to manage the program and all that kind of stuff. So that there will be other people interested for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think if you come with like, hey, and here's how it's managed with by program Y, right? Like, that would be an interesting way to start as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like this is very interesting, and like this sounds an opportunity to get some corporate support on the project. Like,
Yeah, like, I'm just throwing things out here, but like, you could say you have to have a full-time collaborator, right? Who's actively involved in the security stuff. You're on the security triage team. Now, I'm sure some people would be like, no, 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 you're now like, that's not fair because not everybody can afford to do that. And that's where you might get into some of those discussions if you try and add an
make a
Yeah,
additional layer.
donation, make a donation to the project. I don't know.
But I
I,
see that's
I,
like now you're it's pay to play. So, but like it's like I know that there'll be people like, yeah, well, it makes sense. If you get one a benefit, you should contribute. But then the other point of thought is like we want the level playing field and we don't want like some small company to be disadvantaged because like what's a lot of money for one is not so much money. Anyway, it gets complicated, but I hear you in terms of like it would be nice if there were some requirements like you should be actively taking on triage rotations, for example, and doing if you it comes back to like uh you know the initial one was like, is it all collaborators just because you're a collaborator, or is it like you're a collaborator who's active in blah blah and blah, right? Like,
okay. Yeah, I think that in other terms, this list already exists, right? Like if they want to know, if vendors want to get the patch earlier, they can volunteer to be a steward. So, you know,
right, but even if you're a steward today, you can't share that information, right? So this would
yeah,
be
yeah.
like, but you could say like, yeah, you need to be on the security triage, you need to be a security steward, and then we have this program where you can also then say, well, yeah, you can share patches in advance or something, right? Because we know you, we trust you by the time we're going to let you become the steward and so forth.
Yeah, okay. I will sleep on that. I'll take a look
Yeah,
and compare if this will open new attack vectors or this will be against
that would
or
be part of like
Node.js
when
threat model.
because you're now giving it one, you've got to trust. It's not just trusting the people, it's also trusting the company not to expose. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I think we can brainstorm a bit about the Node.js maintainer threat model. I believe that this document uh, shows a different perspective. We have a threat model for Node.js users, and then we are going to create a threat model for Node.js maintainers, given to the fact like XD, for instance, the attack happened and we can also assess if reducing the collaborator activity will also impact in the threat model somehow. We can, I think that we can start from we can start a flow since before being a collaborator and then when the user is a collaborator. So for instance, if I just fork Node.js and create a pull request, do I have access to perform malicious operations or can I create a pull request that contains a hide code, for instance, a lot of space and it collapses on the GitHub UI and someone approves wrongly and it gets merged. Can we do something against that or we trust on that? So I think we could start from not being a maintainer, and then we go to the maintainer's policy.
Right. I was thinking like we probably want the threats. Like the threats, what is it we're trying to protect against is a good starting point. Like we
Okay.
want to avoid one of the threats we want to avoid is we want to avoid malicious code in Node.js, right? Node.js binaries. Like that's one of the XZ thing was like, hey, I got code in there, it's doing something which I didn't want it to do.
Yeah.
So that I could see be one threat. Another one is like, maybe, malicious use of infrastructure.
Yep.
Could they use it to mine Bitcoin or whatever, what other, like, are there other things that we think, like,
Protests
what are these
were on
sorry, go ahead.
like, I don't know, like protests were like being able to change documentation or add like on the website things that may send a message. Like
Okay, so it'd be like,
protests were
malicious links or content in website and or documentation. Any
Uh,
other
you
threats?
are
Like
writing in the minutes, right?
I'm writing in the
Okay.
I put a section like brainstorm on maintainer threat model in the bottom.
Okay. So, malicious code in Node.js binary, malicious use of the infrastructure. Okay. What else?
or distribute kind of different binary itself. Like if you have access to the infrastructure, this means you can also distribute other kinds of binary
Yeah,
disguised as the Node.js binary.
Right.
I
Is that
think
different than
direct and
malicious
not
code
binary.
in Node.js binaries? I guess it's like
Like one is that you change the
right.
source code,
Yeah.
you modify
Yeah,
the source code to add
Yeah.
backdoors, to add like the other one is to distribute malicious
a different
binaries.
binary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you call those? It would be like fake binaries or something like
I think it's distribution attack or something like that.
but the key thing is like people come for the node binaries, right? So if they manage to add and distribute some other binary, that's kind of just the malicious use of the infrastructure. But if they replace the node one,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
think it's
I
node.
think that's posing in a different threat model. It's more in the user's threat model, Marco. It's pretty much like we are assessing NVM, how they distribute the binary.
But it'd
Okay.
be like replacement or substitution. Maybe it's substitution of Node.js binary, like being able to replace the valid binaries with your own one, which is different than malicious code in Node.js. Maybe it's malicious code in Node.js code base,
Yep.
right? Because that's the first one. It's like, hey, you got malicious code base. We publish it, so all the binary distribution is fine. But then the other one is like, hey, we don't do that, but we substitute what's being shipped.
And
Um,
let's not forget we also have other uh, packages that we ship. We have
right.
Undici, we have like branch diff, core utils, LLHTTP.
But
We have
I think it's a different model, right? This is
Right,
also
but the NPM package is published by the project. I don't know if I like, but I think it's different, and we probably want to cover it. It's like,
yeah, this is not for maintainers, I would say.
well, it's
no,
still
but
like,
maintainers have access to this
yeah,
stuff.
and
To
even like, I think when maintainer, like when we said the maintainer threat model, I think it's really should be anything that it's not really just maintainers, it's everybody who has access. So like, I think under like the levels of access, we've got like, you know, external people, right? But then people like, what could they do? Because if they can come in and they can access to test machines, that means that they could still compromise stuff, right? And then similarly, we have like maintainers, we have build members, right? We have
Triagers,
consumers. So go ahead.
triagers.
Right. Yeah. Triagers, security, different work group members. So I think that's the other thing we need to sort of define is like, well, what are all the different kinds of people who have access and what levels of access are there? Like we could even put into their GitHub Actions, right? Because they have a level of access. There's probably other external GitHub plugins, GitHub or other, because like, we do things like Coverity, we run a Coverity agent and, it shoots some data from wherever we run it somewhere, right? And like,
Social media, who has access to social media?
right now that's managed by the foundation.
Okay.
So that I think comes into then like the different kinds of resources. So, but that one's putting, social media accounts. And so I'm just adding to
One
there.
password, for example, like YouTube, all this
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
YouTube accounts.
Zoom.
So maybe I'll put that under here, social media. So maybe it's, well, I'll just add it as YouTube. I mean, and GitHub is the first big one, right?
I think we have the Node Core NPM as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube. Sorry, I missed YouTube,
Zoom.
Zoom, NPM accounts.
Like all the, I don't know if that counts, but there is Vercel, Cloudflare, or all that infrastructure for the website.
Test machines, release machines, test BI, release BI, websites, infra. That's where like, we can the build, there's more stuff documented in build that we can come up with and the build team can certainly help on that kind of front of things. So I'm just going to put this all under build infra as one big category.
Yeah, like I think that trying to make sense of level of access already is a huge step. Like to understand who has access at what is already like
like just documenting what we've got today will be a good amount of effort, right? Like we can basically like saying, here's all our resources, here's the different levels of people that have access, and what does that give them to? Like that matrix will be a really interesting starting point. And you're right, like that'll be a big enough effort in itself to put together a big matrix. Then we can say like, okay, well, what does that mean to malicious code in the Node.js code base, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, first step I would say let's see who has access to what, and then we start drawing the lines. Okay, like I say, like what is the low level stuff and what is the important stuff? Like if you have access, like some things require a lower level of trust, like Zoom. I would say that it doesn't require a high level of trust. An example, release infrastructure, it requires a high level of trust.
right,
Then we
yeah, well, yeah.
like
Yeah.
We can make a matrix, say like important stuff on the right, less important stuff on the left, and then you draw a line. Let's say, okay, to access this, you need to be member of this or that,
Yeah.
and then we can try to figure out how to move from that and see if there is people who should not supposed to be in accessing and why they're accessing, and then we can change the way we approach teams and this kind of stuff.
I think I think that's even going beyond what, like, that step is a later step. I think what we want to get this, like, what is there that's accessible, who has access to it. Then we want to look at the threats that we're worried about. And based on those threats, you can say, well, like, okay, if we're worried about malicious code in the Node.js code base, well, using the Zoom, nothing to do with that, right? Like, basically, does the Zoom impact any of those major threats? No. Okay, then, like, the controls or whatever, don't need to be, versus, like you said, the release infrastructure, yeah, that's really important, but actually we already have a fair amount that says, like, there's a very few number of people. It would almost be like we can look at that and say, okay, well, here's the threat. And the things we already have in place that affect those threats, here they are. I guess where I just brainstorming, like, we should almost, like, once we understand the project resources and levels of access, where I was going is we should look at them through the lens of the threat, right? Like, which ones affect those threats, and if they don't, we can prioritize them lower, and if they do,
Yeah.
we want to prioritize them higher. Like, how does access to the Zoom account affect being the ability to get malicious code into the code base? It doesn't, right? So, like, in the context of that thread, the Zoom account doesn't really matter. The YouTube account probably doesn't matter. But GitHub, access to GitHub and NPM, definitely, right? And then access to the release CI, likely, because, well, I guess that one might be the like, substitution of binaries. It's like you're not getting it into GitHub, you're getting it into the, well, still, you could get malicious code into the code base because you could change, like, the build process to build something different, right?
Yeah. So understanding project resources and understanding some of the possible threats, we combine those and then we have a look at levels of access depending on, like, the amount of on bigger threats combined with the project resource. We make the matrix
Yeah.
and we move from there.
Yeah, and like, I think uh, uh, the suggestion was to bring the build working group in to have a discussion. I think that group would be good in terms of, like, well, what are the different levels of access? What are the project resources? Because there's already a lot there, and I remember some of it off the top of my head, but, like, the more people sort of saying, here are the different categories of what we should consider, and that's a good group to get, an initial bigger look at that.
Yeah, we can have a deep dive on this. This would be, like, I would think this is interesting.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good idea. It's going to take a fair amount of time, right? Like, to go through and come up with a good list.
All right. So I don't think I have anything else to add. I just feel that listing, oh, we possibly have listed all the resource or that can be attacked somehow. I don't know, either by social engineering or, like, by including a pull request or having access to the CI. I think the next step is to go to each one of them, list the which which members has access to it and could offer damage. So we create, like, an overview of the current status, And then we define the threat model, which or how it should look like. Does that make sense?
I think we have a bit more work to like fully define the project resources, but once we do that, you know, that's, I think, the right way to move forward.
I will include also Node.js private.
Right, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's, yeah.
Hacker
Okay.
one.
Yeah, HackerOne. Good one.
There is also
Unity,
okay,
GitHub.
yeah. I mean, like there is we still have Mitre account probably.
The which account?
Mitre,
Oh, the MITRE account? The
yeah, probably that's still active.
Gmail, the
yeah,
Node.js.
there's email. Yeah, you're right. Email. Well, actually, I was thinking like IO email, iojs.org aliases.
Yeah, sorry folks, I have to drop. So
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
Yeah, well, that was a
we'll
good start.
Yeah, it was
yep.
great. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Talk to you later. Bye.